Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar hosted by TechConnect. I am Michael Suarez, the Marketing and Comms Project Admin, and today I have the pleasure of guiding you through today's amazing webinar. Just a few housekeeping rules. Everyone will be muted during the webinar, and then we'll save 15 minutes for questions at the end. There's a question feature box at your top right, so you can input questions there throughout the webinar, and then we'll try to get to your questions at the end of the presentation. So let's go ahead and jump into today's topic, transforming cities, immersive experiences powered by intelligent data and the AMSYS collective blueprint. Now, imagine a city where technology improves daily life, making it safer and more engaging. This is a promise of immersive tech and smart data. So join us today with TechConnect with AMSY, Lenovo and NVIDIA to explore custom AI and computer vision solutions built with NVIDIA's NIM Agent Blueprints like NeMo, ACE, and RIVA. Now I will pass it over to Jacques Istok, Field Chief Technology Officer at AMSY AI. Over to you,
Thank
Jacques.
you. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate the intro and I appreciate everyone for being here. I know that was a lot of technical, big jargon words, and we have a fantastic panel today that will help explain it in simple terms for everyone to understand. I am, as Michael said, going to be your moderator, and the focus is really on a topic that's not, theory anymore. It's not in any way theoretical. It's happening today. AI is literally transforming how cities function from everything from public safety to transit to real-time citizen engagement. But it's not as easy as just deploying AI models and having it all work. It's about doing it in a responsible and thoughtful way with human oversight, adhering strictly to privacy, and leveraging a platform that scales from one intersection to an entire city grid. The agenda is really talking about, building this stack with NVIDIA, really a true, honest to God, smart city in the city of Frisco, Texas, and their story about how they've kind of transformed how to really keep their citizens safer, so to speak. Um, Innovations that AI can do in physical spaces by leveraging things like computer vision, like digital twins, making sure you have this foundation for data, which is really the fundamental aspect for being able to leverage AI, all while having ethics, privacy, and human oversight at the forefront. We're here today with AMSYS, Lenovo, NVIDIA, True North, and Ipsotech, part of what we like to call our collective of folks. I'm joined by an amazing set of speakers. John Rohr, who's the Vice President of AI Platforms at AMSYS, Bill Pugh, who's the co-founder of True North Software Solutions and all-around digital twin thought leader in smart cities and plus. Wade Medlock, who's the director of IT over at the city of Frisco, is going to tell a wonderful story about their journey to becoming a lighthouse smart city. And of course, Jumbi Edelbrum, who is the director of smart spaces and local government at NVIDIA. And as many folks probably have heard, NVIDIA is really kind of defining and leading the course of AI in the world today. And so, Wade, I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about what SAFER is, this initiative that City of Frisco began many, many years ago. It's getting national attention. I've seen some YouTubes about it. Tell us about the project, how it came to be, what you've learned from deploying AI at the city level, and look, give us an insight of what all cities could become.
Sure, no problem. So it's been a long journey. Back in 2008, the local school district for Frisco approached our then fire chief and wanted to provide floor plans for all the schools so that first responders could be in the right place at the right time, responding quicker to incidents should they happen. Back then, these were literally on CDs, and it's just not practical for every fire apparatus to have a CD that they're looking at floor plans on the way to an incident. So Frisco IT, Public Safety, Police and Fire, and Frisco ISD all partnered together to gather requirements, and eventually Safer was born. It is a in-house built application that has evolved over the years, situational awareness for emergency response. It's built upon ArcGIS from Esri, and it has over 24 integrations to where all public responders are seeing the same information live at the same time. So it goes beyond just basic mapping. We have direct ties into the city cameras, both traffic cameras and internal and external of all city buildings. We have integrations with the school district to where we see their floor plans live. We can see the camera feeds of what the hallways and common areas are supposed to look like, as well as what the inside is actually going on currently. We can see the traffic around the schools. We know which entrances are the most appropriate for the vehicles to approach in. So it's all about time to response. So the quicker first responders can get to where they need to go, the quicker the situation can be resolved. We do a lot of other integrations with other softwares, even public works software, so we can see if a fire hydrant on the west side of the building is out of service for repair. The first responders know to go to the east side of the building where the fire hydrant may be. It integrates into Waze so that the public can get live traffic updates from it. It integrates into weather systems so that if there's a chemical or a smoke plume, this also shows up on the same map. And you can see which direction the wind's blowing that smoke, and we know exactly which neighborhoods, houses, buildings may need to be evacuated. Again, lowering the overall time of response. Just dozens of various integrations in other city systems, as well as closest to dispatch, so that everybody can see, okay, where the current vehicles are in the city, which is the most appropriate to help dispatch to whatever incident may be happening. The list goes on and on and on. And it's been a long journey, and it's still a never-ending journey as well. We're continuing to innovate within Safer and continuing to add more information into Safer. It's really all about everyone seeing the same information at the same time together. It's quite impressive.
It sounds impressive. So, was there an impetus or a catalyst that really led you and your team and the city to implement something like this?
I wouldn't say there was a specific incident that happened, but there was definitely an increased focus on safety for students in schools was what really drove it initially. And from there, it spiraled out across all aspects of the city, be it traffic or fire, police responses for all types of incidents. So it covers all bases now and not just school public safety.
That's awesome. And remind me, you said you guys have been leveraging this system for quite a long time. When did you first kick this off again?
Initiated in 2008. At least that's when the conversations first started happening. And we went through a lengthy requirements gathering stage with both Frisco ISD and Frisco Police and Fire. That stage lasted about 4 months to where we got a proper set of requirements to begin building out something. It's gone through several iterations. It was originally kind of a contracted piece of software overlaying our information on top of it. But that did not meet the requirements we found pretty quickly. So they pivoted and they developed something in-house based upon ArcGIS.
Gotcha. Okay, so again, big kudos to the city for their foresight and building something so inclusive, of all the information, so that you can keep your citizens safe. I do get the opportunity to talk to a number of cities really around the globe, and it's interesting where they would like to be is kind of where you guys started this journey back in 2008. So it's a huge testament to the entire city planning team to be able to put this to paper. And so, I kind of want to pivot a little bit, Jumpy, like being able to leverage AI in physical spaces, especially a space so wide and encompassing as a city, right? As Wade said, there's everything from building schematics to, city streets, et cetera. How is NVIDIA helping cities really do this at the edge? And like what is the critical need for being able to maintain privacy yet still continue to quickly deploy this innovative technology?
A great question. Yeah, what Wade and team are doing in Frisco is pretty impressive. Physical AI, when it applied to sort of physical spaces within the city, as opposed to language-based intelligence used for data analytics and chatbots. So, unlike traditional AI, which operates, primarily in the IT or digital realm, the applications that Wade was talking about really depend on creating intelligent systems that can perceive, understand, and perform complex tasks in physical environments. And combined with advances in edge computing, where a lot of the AI is happening at the edge, at the signal lights, at the schools, etc., it's really revolutionizing the way smart cities like Frisco can operate. So, very briefly, the way it works is first you have to perceive what's happening in the real world. And like Wade mentioned, they have cameras and other sensors that are collecting information. And, we've made some great advances in sensing. For example, now we can automatically identify what's happening in the video using what we call video language models, which are essentially large language models that they use in chatbots, for example, but for video. And then, of course, you have to process the data using AI. So you can make intelligent decisions and take action. So, either automatically changing a signal light to manage traffic or human intervention, for example, in emergency management situations. Now, the key to instrumenting intelligent physical spaces, and, Wade talked about this quite a bit, is to have kind of a physical representation of a space, right? And this is what we call a digital twin. And it's really useful for a whole range of applications, such as, for example, the ability to train the AI to do something when you sense something in the real world, collecting, like, for example, Wayne gave the example of fire and smoke plumes, to make sure that your cameras and the AI can recognize those to create those scenarios in the real world is difficult. But you can create those scenarios in the digital twin and then train the AI to recognize those when it happens, right? So, for example, you can also create lots of scenarios at traffic intersections, things that could lead to accidents or near misses. And then, of course, train the AI to recognize them quickly so that the appropriate response can be made. Now, you know, digital twins can also be used to simulate what might happen in the real world. So, for example, again, the example that Wade gave of the fire or smoke or floods, to actually simulate what might happen in the real world so that, you can actually see what the impact would be on the city and the services. And lastly, and, Bill can, talk a lot more about this, digital twins are great for visualizing what's going on in the real world by bringing data from the cameras and the sensors and displaying them in the digital twin in real time so that, multiple agencies across the city can be coordinated in how the city operates or the responses that they bring to bear. So I
Oh,
hope that gives you sort of a high level overview of the underlying technology.
no, I love it. And all this talk about simulations, makes me think that instead of having to wait for us to record an accident or an event, now we actually, can leverage AI to, predict or at least help train itself on things to recognize, which obviously is much more beneficial than, kind of waiting for disaster to happen and then being able to recognize it in the future. So that's amazing. And to your point, Bill, you've worked on computer vision use cases in traffic and transportation for years and years and years. To glom on to what Jumby was talking about, like how do digital twins and AI work together to give your customers, your cities, situational awareness, both historically but also in real time?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I mean, I think that we kind of took a unique approach to the digital twin scenario, and for definition purposes, there's the 3D model digital twins, which I think are great, especially from a visualization geospatial awareness perspective. We kind of went the route of how do we make this 100% operational. We are really looking at real time streaming data, and very much what Jumby said in terms of being able to create data driven replicas and things like that. We went the route of scenarios where events that matter, accidents, vision zero initiatives, looking at public safety, looking at threat detections, and overall, 100% end-to-end operations. But the real element of the geospatial awareness is understanding. Take a traffic example for let me take a traffic example. You're looking at vehicles, and the vehicles are going intersection to intersection, intersection to intersection. And with the computer vision, we're able to detect the velocity of that vehicle, understand time to arrival at the next light. So there's a number of outcomes that come from that. You can tell, how fast to go to hit every green light because you're actually interacting with not only the vehicle, but you understand the traffic management system. You understand the timing, the signal phasing and timing of the traffic. The side benefit to that is that you're reducing CO2 emissions. So now you have multiple agencies within the city that are realizing benefits and hitting their objectives of reducing greenhouse gases, improving traffic flow, improving the community experience across the board. And all of that is predicated by cities like Frisco that actually have a full GIS system and are leveraging the data from that. So we like to leverage data that exists with the city today. We operate at the edge. We use machine learning models and AI to give us that information. So in this instance here, you can see we take multiple streams of data as fast as you can deliver them to us. And inside that, we contextualize the data, we ingest the data, contextualize the data, and then offer the specific outcome that's required. Many cities have Vision Zero initiatives, which is reducing the number of fatalities at intersections and looking at near misses. That data comes in, we look at that, and then it's moments that matter. We will kick off an automated workflow that hits the EMS that closes the loop much faster than you can imagine because yeah, I mean seconds actually matter in that instance. And I mean we one last example, working with the city of San Leandro, we improved their traffic throughput by 33% over the course of 9 months. And this is the proof that it's much more than a dashboard. Static dashboards give you information. Real-time data actually allows you to see what's happening, how many people are at the crosswalk. We want to give preference to the pedestrians and the cyclists. What is your stop time? How many corridors are backed up by red lights? And then what is your functional throughput? So how well is that performing? Now you can likewise click inside these digital twins and understand what the signal phasing and timing is doing. This is all operational, and it delivers the insight that the city needs, the traffic operators and anyone else that's engaged with it, to make insightful decisions.
Now, in your experience, what do cities do without, say, leveraging you and your technology? Like I think at one point you talked about the city of San Leandro. Like, how are they trying to do this without you?
uh Piecemeal. It's static dashboards. I mean, you go into urban planning and working with other groups within the city, and they will say, well, these corridors, and they have traffic studies. The challenge there is that traffic studies become outdated the next day after they're published because there is no way to predict what your traffic is going to look like day by day by day by day. But they try this with timers that are sitting there that say, at 4 or 5 in the morning, we're going to hold that green light for 35, 45 seconds. But you didn't know that you were going to have an influx of vehicles on that corridor at that time that made that backup extensive. So now each intersection is being impacted. So we just enable, we unlock the ability to streamline these things by leveraging the existing data in a streaming fashion.
Gotcha. Now you've said this word data a lot, and the course of this conversation really is around being able to make cities smarter, leverage that data more effectively. Hopefully, that effectiveness can come through the use of applied AI. But John, I did want to kind of toss the mic over to you. Like, how does AMSYS make that that data usable, secure and scalable such that AI can take advantage of it? And what does the foundation, kind of really look like for building responsible artificial intelligence at city scale?
Sure. So first, I wanted to take a second. Wade, beautiful spot you have here. Unfortunately, I'm locked in a little office, but beautiful spot overlooking the Star in Frisco. And what an incredible city you guys have. And we're here at the brand new facility at the Economic Development Council office. So what's important to note here that Wade talked about is really the whole teaming and collaboration aspect, right? We talked about the collective piece. And really my role is to bring the ecosystem and that collective together. Just how Wade and his team works with public safety, the Economic Development Council, and corporate partnerships. For example, we work pretty closely with Plug and Play and the sports tech team here in Frisco as well. And so it's all about innovation, incubation, and bringing collaboration and technology together. And ultimately rounding that out to where data is the center of kind of what the piece of information that we're all trying to use to get an outcome. So AMSYS has been around for 23 years, right? So born in Texas. We've been hosting, managing, and securing client data for all that time. So that's really what we do well. And bringing people together as a global master solutions integrator, where we have, connected cities and smart buildings, all that depends on data and running applications that use that data to make decisions. And Jumby taught me this a long time ago. Applied intelligence is the term we use, not artificial. We've leaned a lot on our team at NVIDIA as well as Lenovo. And what we've done is really gone all in with NVIDIA. And we were at the Super Bowl of AI last week. If you guys saw Jensen and the Global Technology Conference and his keynote, I did wait in line for 2 hours to get to hear him speak. So I would get there early next year. But amazing
John, do you think that
technology.
was the John, do you think that talk was the event, or was that the halftime show?
Actually, I think nowadays the halftime show is the event, right?
I agree.
So especially this last one, but we won't go into that. The cool part about kind of what we're all doing here is, and what Wade and team have done in Frisco is jumping all in. And so we like to walk alongside of our clients in that journey and really simplify this whole concept of AI, right? And NVIDIA has done a phenomenal job along with partners like Lenovo to build these blueprints and building blocks. So we're just going into that and building the hardware platforms and software platforms to support them with their software stack and all the networking and the IoT devices that all come together to make this data acquisition, aggregation, and provenance and governance possible. So ultimately, that's really what our job is, to be a facilitator and connect the dots between the technology and the software tools, the operational aspects, and the outcomes that our clients want to build. Because the hard part about this is, okay, great, AI is cool, and I want to build this solution, but what does it mean for my business or my school or my stadium or my city, what have you, right? And so we really jump into that. And I think where we fit in well now is working with the city of Frisco and the public safety teams on what do they want to accomplish, right? Not like understand art of the possible, what is art of the practical. And my favorite kind of story is kind of take you from cocktail napkin to production. How do we help you in that vision? And then how do we walk you through the process from roadmap to getting actual something to generate an outcome that either the city leadership wants to accomplish or that the constituents or public wants to accomplish. So working collectively with the team is really our goal. And then building the hardware platforms and software platforms in a modular, scalable way so that we can make sure that we have a secure, hardened platform that has availability and security built into it.
I love it. I love it. I especially love applied intelligence as opposed to artificial intelligence. As your backdrop here, I see we're looking at something called the AMSYS Digital Experience Platform. I'd love to understand a lot of what we've talked about so far has been around safety and security, which obviously is super important. It ends up being an expense, a well worth it expense to keep everyone safe, but it ends up being an expense. Can you talk a little bit about what is this experience platform and how does it, kind of leverage the infrastructure that cities have today and try to, make it something more?
Yeah, I'll talk quickly and then go into the smart guys. But ultimately, it's about taking the tools around multimodal agentic AI and large language models and RAG and all those piece parts, right? And creating an experience. Instead of solutions, now we call them experiences. People want an immersive experience, whether they walk into a mall or want to get in and out of a hospital as quick as possible, or go to a school or university. They want to be safe and they want to, do what they're there to do, whether it's study or whether it's, go to class and feel good and safe about that, or buy lunch, at the quad or whatever it is, right? So we want to create that experience and use a tool set to do that using our NVIDIA Blueprint technology and all the software and data science that we add to that to go tailor and tune that to the customer environment. So we walk in and we look at this from a software and solutions engagement process, not just pulling something down off the shelf and saying, here's your AI tool. So we work with you to develop and design and build and then support a solution with our partnerships to make sure you're like, wow, this is incredible. I finally got where I wanted to go. And I feel good about the security in my platform, and I'm ready to go release AI to my constituents.
I love it, and I don't think anyone on this call would argue that AI is complex. Pulling all this together is not an easy thing to do, and at the cornerstone or foundation of AI is data. And as we've learned over the last 20 years, aggregating and gathering data is a challenge for every organization, city or enterprise. And being able to have the quote unquote easy button from AMSYS, where you don't have to think about which parts and pieces you have to go and procure, and then figure out how to put it all together, can be super attractive to a lot of organizations. So, we've talked a lot about things here. I would like to throw a quick poll out to everyone just to kind of get some feedback from the audience here. You should see that pop up here in a moment. But as that happens, please, take a second, see the poll and respond to it. I'm going to talk a little bit about, kind of the bread and butter of having the foresight of bringing all of this technology together over the last many, many years, but it really around ethics, privacy, and human oversight. None of this stuff works without trust. Your constituents have to trust that you're doing the right things with the data that you're collecting, and that their privacy is being upheld first and foremost. Let's briefly touch upon a term called guardrails. And how each of you guys kind of thinks about privacy, especially in the unique roles that you guys have today in this panel and really as your day jobs. Everything from human in the loop and making sure that these systems are being built responsibly. I'm gonna start with you, Wade, because at the end of the day, you're representing the smart cities of today and really, kind of the future of what every city could become. How is this ethics privacy conversation handled and thought about at the city level?
Oh, it's a huge focus. As a government entity, privacy and security is a hard requirement in everything we set out to do, as well as it's an expectation from our citizens to accomplish that. We spend enormous amounts of time testing these systems before anything goes live, including running live scenarios to make sure it responds in a way that we feel is appropriate and correct. We spend a lot of time making sure that only the right data gets to the right person at the right time in the right format. So there's protection boundaries the entire path through. We make sure we set up guardrails so that data doesn't get out or is publicly available when it shouldn't be. Anything that's confidential or has PII information is not ingested into any of the systems or is part of the AI knowledge base as well. We keep that stuff completely separate. So again, it's all about the right person gets the right data at the right time. We spend a lot of time building in those guardrails before anything goes live.
That makes me feel better as a constituent, not necessarily of Frisco, but in general, it's good to know that folks like you are keeping that as a core tenet for what you're building. Jumpy, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty around AI in general, but how is this oversight kind of thought of as you're building an AI stack for organizations or cities? And you're on mute, Jumpy, if you don't
Yes, sorry
mind.
about that.
No worries.
Uh,
Webinar bingo. Who's the winner?
yeah, sorry about that. So, no, we at NVIDIA spend a lot of time and effort on what we call trustworthy AI because, as Wade was saying, the most important thing about AI projects we find, especially in cities and public agencies, is to create the trust with the public that the data they're going to use is trustworthy, the responses they're going to get are trustworthy, etc. And the two main elements of this are one that the data is actually handled appropriately, and these issues are the same with, like, for example, traditional data that the city may have, issues with privacy, who sees the data, issues with data sovereignty, who owns the data. Only the right people with the right authority should really own some of the data. And then, earlier we talked about processing some of the data at the edge rather than the data center or the cloud, which is essential for applications like traffic management where you need low latency. But this also adds a layer of privacy and security since, the data can't be compromised in transit, which, allows city to more easily comply with data sovereignty and privacy. But the second big element of trustworthiness is to make sure that AI doesn't give inappropriate and inaccurate responses. And this is where some of the technology that NVIDIA is developing around guardrails is super essential to make sure that content that is given to citizens, especially, or even in more critical situations, given to law enforcement, emergency management, is actually accurate information. And, the AI doesn't what we call hallucinate. So, yeah, in general, we at NVIDIA spend a lot of time obviously thinking about this because it is so critical to accelerate the adoption of AI.
I totally appreciate that response. It's actually the perfect time. Looks like there's about 85% of the folks online have responded to the poll. So we'll go ahead and close that poll and let everybody see the results here. But it looks as though there's a fair number of folks out there where looks like well over half are either trying to learn about how to become smarter as a city, or actually currently running a few initiatives to kind of move the needle forward. Bill, around the human oversight and ethics and privacy, and knowing that like literally over half of the folks out there are starting their journey. How do you guys keep this in mind as you're developing these solutions to be both, again, kind of analytical, but real time to be able to help the cities.
I think that, I think this is a huge topic when we're talking about, deploying these types of operational technology solutions. Your a city or any other entity's cybersecurity posture and their data governance strategy is first and foremost. And then from a solution provider's perspective, we take it extremely seriously and have built everything with those two elements in mind at the beginning. So when you're talking about something that deals heavily with public safety or any of this city data, you have to have the as Jumbie mentioned, as well as what Wade said, the provenance, governance, and we stuck on the immutability aspect of it, because if we send an event to an EMS system and say that this happened at this intersection and you need to get there right now, one, we have to trust, we have to establish that trust. That data has to be trusted. It has to have a chain of custody all the way back. And we have to be able to make sure that we're not reporting false positives. So those things we take into account whenever deploying, that type of a solution for any city, utility, municipality, whatever it is. And I mean, because we're instituting escalation logic, we're instituting system transparency. The data needs to be explainable because we have those elements of machine learning and AI built in.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
Bill, could I just add to that as well? So what's important as well on that topic is that kind of single digit millisecond latency requires performance at the network and at the compute and at the edge, right? So understanding that entire dynamic and what your lowest common denominator is, and building out an environment where, I obviously cities don't have unlimited budgets. Nobody does anymore. So how do we right size that technology to find the best compute, the best GPU, and then the best IoT device, camera, network, etc., to go make sure we're right sizing it to the budget, to the application, and the use case. And so I would say that we've worked closely with NVIDIA to look at the portfolio of solutions they have, along with our partnership at Lenovo to find the right edge device, and then partners like AMSYS Communications from a camera standpoint, and then Cisco networking and so forth. So we look at the entire complex to help support you, because ultimately, if you can't get the data from the street to the IDF or to the data center, it doesn't really matter. So that's one
Right.
thing that's really important to understand.
Absolutely.
Now I want to go a little bit off script here and just ask, you guys have talked about edge, you've talked about the importance of privacy, you've talked about all these things. Not a single person has mentioned the C word, the cloud. And this is kind of an open conversation a little bit, but where does, if at all, cloud fit into this? And why such a heavy talk around edge compute here? Like, how does that matter in being able to do this real time, analysis?
So I'll say that for us being a solution provider, right? When we look at it, and if our stuff is hosted in the AMSYS cloud, and we're leveraging NVIDIA, CPU, GPU to run things both at the edge, and we've got it in the cloud, right? Um, the reduction, because we are a stateful solution, the reduction of data that has to go to the center cloud because you're making localized decisions is beneficial to everyone. It's beneficial to the city because they don't have to pay the cloud costs. It's beneficial to us because we're able to deliver that sub-millisecond latency response. So I think you're not saying that the cloud goes away. You're just saying we're going to use it in the most efficient fashion possible and provide an operationally efficient solution for the city.
Any other words from either Jumbie, Wade, or John there?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind jumping in on that just for a second. It's also a question of scalability. As an entity with a very limited budget, that has irregular large events, we need to be able to scale up and scale down on demand. And cloud affords us that flexibility, whereas an on-prem solution would not have that capability at all, or we would have to overspend to be able to provide for that in worst case scenarios.
Yeah, the thing I'd add a couple of comments to that. Edge versus cloud, obviously, there are lots of pros and cons, but at the edge for applications like traffic management, like emergency management, where you really need to make decisions literally in milliseconds to change a light, for example, if an accident is about to happen. I mean, obviously, you want to have some compute at the edge. Uh, the other thing to consider is, taking data to the cloud, especially when you're talking about video, which, as we know, is becoming higher and higher resolution because you can get more and more information. Could get expensive to take, thousands of cameras in a city, especially in a large city with tens of thousands of cameras to the cloud for processing. And the other thing to consider is, especially for chatbots and applications like those large language models, uh, people we have to pay by token. And if you're accessing openly available large language model where your citizens are asking a whole bunch of questions, and I can tell you from my experience, once you make a chatbot available to citizens, the amount of information that citizens want from the city goes up significantly. And the interesting thing about this model is even if the chatbot gives you all kinds of crazy answers, you're still paying for it because you get charged by the token. So cost, is a big issue that you might want to consider. So, just at a high level, some pros and cons.
Sure,
Yeah, and if
John.
I could add, I mean, the C word of cloud leads to another C word that Jimmy just mentioned is cost, right? And there's lots of ways to do cloud, and ultimately cloud is just somebody else's servers. And what's important that Wade talked about is looking at cities, they're all different, right? But what's important is that these large events are really a catalyst to understand how to best implement a smarter kind of connected city approach. Because when you have, an influx of 300,000 people for an event, whether it's an F1 race or World Cup match or golf event, what have you, you need to be prepared for anomalies in public safety, in retail commerce, and lots of people and cars and e-bikes all kind of in the same place, right? So I think what's important for a lot of cities to look at is, let's say, for example, Frisco is a very safe city. It's fastest growing city in Texas, and they're great right now. But what about when they have a massive influx of people from all over the world coming in? How do you handle that? So those are some of the things we're looking at now. And what you have to really embrace is that elasticity and scale and modular approach by looking at edge, cloud, and what's right, whether it's building a mobile command center with a batch of data center equipment and networking tools and so forth. So I think what's helpful is to really look at, where does my data need to sit, and then how do I need to build a scalable modular approach so that I can scale up, scale down, which we can do on-prem, hybrid, or in the public cloud to kind of help you with that.
Well, and I love and this is kind of a perfect conversation, a good segue. I think the experience that an MSI like AMSYS brings to the table allows us to take those kinds of use cases and requirements into account as we deliver a solution on behalf of whomever we're delivering it. I also think that one of the nice things about leveraging that hybrid approach, as you said, John, is that if you have a hammer and that's your only tool, then every problem ends up being a nail. But the reality is that's not the case. Cloud is good for certain things, like you said, for a momentary blip in scale. That doesn't make sense to kind of capex that into your own data center. But there are a lot of privacy concerns and a lot of ROI that comes with being able to leverage your own data center for the hard crunching. And then obviously for that real-time analysis, that real-time inference, being able to deploy at the edge allows you to have that total package and solution. And so, I want to thank you guys for that robust, unscripted conversation, and sort of, get to a spot where we can wrap up the formal part of this talk, but then open it up for some questions. I see a couple questions out there in the audience already. After listening to this conversation, what have you guys all learned today? First, I'd even go so far as to thank the city of Frisco for loaning us Wade for this hour, and his experience and rendition of what they're doing. It's super impressive stuff, and cities like Frisco are proving today what is possible, not the art of the possible, but what is actually possible to help constituents and make operations within a city, not just digital operations, but the physical aspect of the world, make that more efficient. It's clear that NVIDIA is really leading the charge around AI, whether it's artificial intelligence or applied intelligence, and very specifically, not only doing that to build this AI and train it and make sure that it's doing the right thing, obviously with the applicable guardrails, but also being able to do that inference at the edge to make quick decisions and get people help very, very quickly. As you learned as well, digital twins, they're very operational, not just visual. This ability to overlay data onto a twin of your city or onto a twin of your building has enormous benefits, not just for safety and security again, but beyond that. And of course, none of this works without that trust factor, without a solid privacy first data platform that really is that foundation of the whole thing. So the key takeaways that I want you to leave with is, you start with privacy first. It's not just in your policies, but you need to make sure that the architecture that you're deploying is able to do that hybrid edge all the way to private cloud to cloud, and make sure that you're leveraging the right tool for the right job. A lot of what you see out in the world looks very interesting, but typically these are really what we like to call kind of point solutions. And so what's oftentimes missing is this comprehensive solution or comprehensive platform that lets physical spaces infer data, and like I said before, overlay that data like we do in digital environments. A lot of times we coin that phrase phygital. We're trying to do in the physical world what we can already do in the digital world, and AI is really helping us do that more and more quickly. Frisco really is ahead of the curve and actively integrating all of these capabilities on top of the foundations they built over almost 20 years ago to improve the experiences for both visitors as well as residents, which again is super impressive and is really a boon for the city in terms of bringing people in, not only to keep them safe, but also to have them enjoy themselves, have an experience, maybe spend a little money along the way. And of course, being able to visualize that data through digital twins allows cities to have that operational excellence and just make sure that every initiative that the city is interested in doing can be done in a measurable, thoughtful, and safe, privacy-led way. So again, I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you all for joining us and listening to us. Let's keep working together, building smarter cities. The backdrop here is a little questionnaire that you can take and download and see kind of how ready you are for becoming a smart city. Also note that there's another poll that popped up that, if you're interested in exploring your own readiness score, we'd love to talk. As Bill knows, we have been working together across many cities over many, many years to help them achieve this operational readiness, operational effectiveness. And we'd love to talk a little bit more about that experience and even, talk about any challenges that you're currently facing. And so with that, I will turn it back over to Michael. Again, thank you all, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Jacques, can I just close the loop on one other thing?
Of
So
course.
what you saw was a QR code that provides smart readiness questionnaire, but we're also exhibiting and have a booth at Smart Cities TechConnect in San Antonio in 2 weeks, April 14th through 16th, where we actually will be doing a workshop on April 15th. So we'll be taking you through the framework of how we start, at the beginning, from vision to activation, and how we take our clients from an idea to concept to pilot. And we call it pilot for a purpose. I don't think anybody loves to do POCs, but we can help through our innovation labs and facilities, in partnership with Lenovo and NVIDIA and other networking providers and camera providers. We have our own infrastructure that we can build pilots for you kind of on demand. And so that helps you figure out what are the outcomes that I want to drive for my organization. And we have a fast start framework that we build and a methodology around to help you get from where you are today to where you want to go. But thanks to our sponsors, Lenovo and NVIDIA, for helping drive this kind of discussion. And come see us in 2 weeks in San Antonio at the TechConnect conference. And the last thing I
It's a
wanted
great
to,
answer.
if you can go to the
Oh, sorry.
next slide for
Um,
the
Yeah. Um,
oh. And also, before we get to questions, thanks to the City of Frisco and the Economic Development Council for the Women's PGA Championship, which is a beautiful event where come on out, come up to Frisco, and they've offered some tours of their environment and the offices here, as well as some tickets at the actual championship event. So I'm telling you, this is an amazing complex of beautiful golf activity and a fun time. So I want to close the loop around that, and please join us up in Frisco in June for that activity as well.
that's a great ad. So I'll turn it back over to Michael and see if we have any questions from the audience.
Awesome. That was really good. You actually, a lot of you touched on some of these questions, but we did get one that you all probably didn't talk about much. So I think this would be interesting. How is Agentic AI making its way into city operations, platforms, or even impacting the workforce?
So it's a great question, Michael. And I think I want to first ask Jumpy because he is representing sort of let's call it the godfathers of agentic. But Jumpy, I mean, what are you guys seeing? What are you guys espousing? What are you guys developing?
Yeah, agentic AI is obviously a relatively recent development, but it's not, that different from the core AI applications that people have been using. Just to sort of a little bit of a difference between the two is think of, training a new employee for your business or doing a function in a city. You get someone, right out of college, you give them a few skills, they can do a few tasks. And then over time, you train them more and more, and they get pretty skilled at what they do. Uh, all the different functions in the city or in enterprises, etc., are going to have their own agents. So, for example, you'll have an agent for the finance and treasury department. You'll have an agent for health and human services. You might have an agent for safety and security, all requiring different kinds of training to do their jobs, to be those agents. And sometimes using an underlying tool, for example, like a large video language model, where you're analyzing everything that happens in the video, but the information that you get out of those systems are going to be used by different agents differently, right? So a traffic person can use the traffic information to analyze traffic flows. A person in charge of emergency management will analyze situations with fire, smoke events, floods, etc. Same systems giving out different pieces of information to different agents. And the last part of this that we're developing at NVIDIA is the ability for agents to automatically get other agents to perform certain tasks as opposed to necessarily just giving information to a human. So, for example, if you go to an agent that's a travel agent that's booking your travel, they might actually go to an airline agent or to a cruise line agent to book, tickets automatically for you to come up with a complete itinerary. So yeah, within the city, I think there's a huge, agentic AI can actually have a pretty big impact.
Yeah, and if I may insert myself as a moderator instead of talker for a moment, the event that John was talking about, the NVIDIA GTC, which was just last week, that was the Super Bowl of AI. And one of the talks that I was fortunate to participate in was around agentic AI at the edge. And almost to, take what Jumby said, but dumb it down just a little bit. And I say it because we were in a room of maybe 1,000 people, and when I asked if anyone could define what traditional AI was versus agentic AI, I think I saw about 3 hands go up. And I like to talk about it a little bit. Traditional AI is this ability to take data, look at patterns, do machine learning on it. Agentic AI allows these systems to have tools that they can decide to use in some way or another in order to service a request or answer a question. And that ability to leverage your computer to do things that humans typically have done allows for operations excellence at scale with consistency as well. And this you think about it in from a smart city standpoint, the ability to take different tasks and define them as tools that can be leveraged either by applications or by other tools allows you to do things in a quicker, simpler way than ever before. And the example that we gave in that talk, which again is available for online now if you want to watch it, but if you were a programmer and you imagine walking into a room and someone saying, turn around, turning around sounds super easy for you and I to do, but actually involves a bunch of math. When you have an object and you need to turn it around, maybe you have to move it 90 degrees. If it's a 3D, kind of thing, you have to understand, the X, Y, and Z axis. It's not as simple as turn around. But by being able to leverage these large language models, leverage these purpose-built tools to do certain things, it means that when someone has an idea, you can implement that idea, very quickly, very easily, and without the need for, the typical training to get that consistency across a large body of people. And so, like Jumby said, in my opinion, agentic AI is going to literally change the world and allow for actions to take place in real time in a way that will delight the cities, the constituents, as well as the employees who are there to, service those constituents and visitors.
Hey, Jacques, would you go to that next slide so I can just touch on a concept real quick?
Of course.
One more, sorry. Or actually, I'm sorry. I think I took it out. Anyway, so the point I was trying to make is we had a slide with a bunch of NVIDIA building blocks and software tools and everything else. And what's important to really kind of embrace here is that the data warehousing aspect of the consolidated data sets and the language model and inferencing and training and generative AI and all the fancy terms that go into building an actual interactive digital assistant or concierge and agentic kind of motion is complex, right? And you can't just pull a software tool off the shelf, throw it on a GPU, and call it a day. We've spent a lot of time with our data science team and really data engineering and Jacques' team to build a customized suite of software products that take the NVIDIA blueprints and help you customize and design, whether it's agent for an insurance company or a retail organization or a virtual nursing tool set. We've done that before for universities and other organizations where we can tailor it to exactly how you want it to work and then we can pilot that for you so that you're not having to figure it all out on your own. So we've done a lot to simplify that process, and trust me, there's a lot that goes into it. And we've co-developed some stuff with NVIDIA's tool set around ACE for avatars. And it's funny, we'll have a conversation and people are like, I just want an avatar. Well, there's a lot of stuff underneath that makes the avatar talk and emote and respond. So please reach out to us and we can take you through some of the things that we're working on to bring this to market and design and customize for what you need to make this solve a problem for you.
Awesome. Well, we are at time. Thank you, Jumpy, John, Jacques, Bill, and Wade for this presentation. I definitely gained some new insights. And just to our audience, the conversation doesn't end here. Like John mentioned, we will be in San Antonio, April 14th through the 16th, and the conversation will definitely continue. So make sure to register for that event, check out the workshop that they will be hosting. And if there's anything else you all have, if not, I think we can conclude there. Thank you all.
Great.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to Frisco.
Thanks.